mentioned other characters in Mark's gospel. Sometimes they're called minor characters. These are people that show up in the gospel. Typically, they're not named. Even in some cases, I think we know their name in the tradition from other stories, but they typically don't get a name. Bartimaeus would be one exception to that. But these are figures who come from marginalized positions in society in various ways. And what I find so haunting about it is, and intriguing, haunting because, like you, we inhabit very similar social positions. They seem to be the only ones who really get Jesus in the narrative. The people that are close in terms of proximity and privilege and power are constantly misunderstanding Jesus. And those on the margins are the ones that Mark constantly is pointing. Like, outside of pointing to Jesus as imitate Jesus, we get all these little pictures of these characters that pop up where Mark says, imitate her as well. A lot of them are women. A lot of them are women.
Yeah, that's
imitate
right.
her, imitate her.
Syrophoenician woman.
Imitate him. The woman with the flow of blood. Yeah, the Syrophoenician
the woman in chapter 14 who breaks the jar.
Right. Probably her name was Mary, but Mark doesn't even, we don't have her name there.
She's like the ultimate disciple in Mark in many ways.
The gospel, she'll always, whenever the gospel is told, what she did will be.
That's a crazy commendation.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't see anything else like that in the tradition that compares to that.
Nuts.
Yeah. The widow at the temple.
I
mean, the list just goes on and on and on. You even have cool stuff where you could argue there's kind of two minor characters together, where you've got the daughter of Jairus, whom Jesus raises from the dead, and the woman with the flow of blood.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's kind of about Jairus too, because he's this powerful official, and he's got to wait for his request to be met until Jesus meets with this woman with the flow of blood. Like that story actually interrupts. The technical term is intercalation, or if you like, sandwiching. Mark likes to make sandwiches. And this is one, I think, where it's just really powerful, reflecting on, man, Jesus made the guy that if you asked 100 out of 100 people who matters in the world, they all would have said Jairus.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Not this woman. Yeah. And Jesus makes Jairus wait to have his request met until he meets with this woman.
Yeah.
He was healed. He could have kept going, no problem, but he felt power go out of him, like in the same way that she had something coming out of her blood, right? Power comes out of Jesus, totally transforms the situation. And now you have this moment where she's brought front and center. It's not like, hey, I mean, sometimes when we look at ministry, it's like expediency, get from one task to the next, or what's most important, who's most important to be with, right? If I could have a gospel card with the gospel, you suck, God, you're destined to hell, but if you pray this prayer, you can go to heaven, and I just hand that out to 100 people, wouldn't that be more efficient than stopping and meeting with this one homeless man who actually might want to talk to me and really could use a friend at this moment, right? Wouldn't that be more expedient? I don't know, not for Jesus' perspective, right?
Totally.
It would have been more expedient to just keep walking on, but he stops and makes it all about her. And so the way that Jesus responds to minor characters, the faith they demonstrate, the Syrophoenician woman, she's the only character in the narrative who gets Jesus to change his mind. Right? I mean, go put that in your pipe and smoke it, right? A character in the Gospel of Mark actually moves Jesus to change his mind. On something, to see that in that moment, right, his vision for the kingdom of God, very natural, first to the Jews, then to the Gentiles. My ministry is primarily focused on the Jews, but it will indeed go to the Gentiles. But she's in that moment, she's like, but the God of Israel is the God of all the nations. And I'm here right now in front of you. So what are you going to do for me now? Right? Like the persistent widow, like some of the prophets and patriarchs who challenge God, like, hey, remember your character here. Remember who you are. And God says, actually, okay, you're right. And Jesus,
unlike the disciples who like sometimes were afraid to ask about stuff.
Right. And this woman, in fact, she'll take the lowest position, but insist that Jesus stay true to his identity as the Messiah of the God of Israel. So you just have act after act of these incredible characters that come forward. And I am haunted by this dynamic that the people that seem to have the best perspective of life, of who Jesus is, of the moment, are those that are not centered in the community.
Yeah.
They're those coming from the margins.
Yep.
So that's the haunting part. The exciting part becomes, how do we actually actualize that in our communities? So how do we actually center people who have traditionally been marginalized? How do we make the voices of those who've been marginalized the centerpiece of our theological discourse? Because there's a lot to be learned there. I know people get freaked out by positional epistemology, and there's all this kind of stuff, but that's the reality is our life experiences do shape how we see. We are embodied human beings, and what we've experienced does shape how we see the world. We need, and therefore we need one another to see the world more fully. And we especially need those on the margins to see how the systems we inhabit actually work. Right. So that for me is one of the reasons that I really, really, really appreciate the Gospel of Mark. These the minor characters just throughout the gospel, what you have going on there.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, I'm just thinking about that now you're talking about it, about how spatially, how I'm thinking about what you're saying spatially, we need people on the margins to show us. We need people on the margins, and that I totally agree with what you're saying, especially when it comes to theological discourse and the current stakeholders and the people that matter, whatever.
But even the assumption of that is assuming the people that are at the center actually are. I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Mark wants to even explode that, right?
Yes.
So the center where God is active in the gospel.
He's on the margins. Yeah.
Yes. 100%. Thanks. That's a good clarity.
That was interesting to me when he says he does it twice. He says in Mark 9, whenever you welcome whenever he slows down the narrative, like when Jesus turns, looks around, it's like whenever he slows down his frantic pace, that something significant is going to happen. When he takes the child, sets him in the center, and puts his arms around him, and he identifies with the social nobody. So and then he says, as whenever you welcome one of this person, I think in like an American evangelical perspective on that would be something like, whenever you welcome one of these, you are showing my love to them. Do you know what I mean? Because the assumption is like, we have God's love and we just need to share it.
Yes.
But he's like, whenever you welcome one of these, you're welcoming me. Like, I don't walk in the room. I don't walk in the big shiny building until one of these walks in.
Yeah.
And then he also
that's so good. Yeah.
You know
that's
what
so
I'm saying?
Good. Yeah. And so what that means is that the model of hospitality in a lot of our churches is, we've got the goods, come in and have a taste. Like,
yes,
we've got it. We've got
Jesus.
We've got what you need. We've got what you need. Come in and
we're Jesus dispensers or something.
You get some Jesus and you get some Jesus, right? And when what Mark is kind of saying is, actually, Jesus is out there.
He's out there.
What
are y'all doing in there?
If you want to meet with Jesus, you go out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
So just think about all of our language, Max. It's like outreach. Like, we have God and we're going to bring a little bit of him to you over there. And then also I've thought about like the
cultural influence. Yeah.
Yo, totally.
This is another one. I've back to your punk rock point about Jesus. I could see Mark being like, you want some cultural influence? I'll give you some cultural influence. How about the Messiah goes and dies on the cross crying out, my God, man, why have you forsaken me?
Oh my word. Yeah. It's so upside down. But thinking about with Paul's metaphor of the body and the body parts, like that metaphor is only used by Paul ever to talk about how every part is important.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't use that metaphor to talk about how we need to be the hands and feet of Jesus. That's a corrupted use of that metaphor. You know what I mean? Like, because when the New Testament mind is talking about reaching out to others, it's talking about that's where we find God. That's where we find Jesus. And even the time when John says, we told them to stop, Jesus says, well, don't do that, because anytime they show you hospitality, they get their reward. He doesn't say anytime you reach out to them, I'm glad that you do. It's like, you are the needy ones here. And when they